Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, a Monday edition of Birds 365. Back for another week of content. Looking forward to it all week long. Joined now by John McMullen, Eagles insider, Eagles beat reporter. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning?
Yeah, I already forgot to plug in. So, yeah, I'm going to do that at the break, the hardwire in. So in case I have any internet issues, I've been going about so long, I haven't been in the home studio, so I forget things.
You've been on the move, Johnny Mac. You've been on the move.
Yeah. So we'll see. Already made one mistake on a Monday morning. That's not a good sign.
Monday morning, a tough start to the week, but John will rebound like hopefully the Eagles defense will in camp coming up here. Good week of shows planned. Good show planned today, everybody. Got Jeff Kerr coming up in about 18 minutes. He's been at all the games, or the game last week, all the practices. He actually carpooled with John, so we'll have some extra questions for Jeff. What was Johnny Mac's car road trip snack of choice? Will Jeff reveal that, or will he not? And then we'll have an hour number.
Well, that's a big zero because we didn't.
Big zero.
Nobody had a snack. So
no snacks were eaten. No crab dip was taken from the stadium. And then we'll have Kaden Steel in hour number 2. He's been down there at practices and the game as well. So good to looking forward to talk to him. John, I want to start the week with a question. How concerned are we on the defense through 11 practices, one preseason game, and a couple more games and many more practices to go? How concerned are we entering the 2024 season about this defense?
I'm a little concerned. It's not like it's new, but you saw it in Baltimore for a very short period of time, 14 snaps with the linebackers in it. It was not good. Now, Jordan Davis also didn't play well in his short stint, so that factors into it as well. Not as concerned with him because I think he's at least proven to a certain extent for a certain number of snaps that he can handle the job at nose tackle. He did not play well, but it gives you an indication. Like, he has to keep people off Devon White and Zach Bond if that's the way they're going to go. And we were back at practice yesterday, 11th consecutive practice. Devon White and Zach Bond starters again, even though everybody else played well. They didn't play well. Jakobi played well. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. played well. Ben Van Sumeren played really well. And, Vic, being Vic, kind of tempered that and said, well, they're going against second and third team players, which they are. And to a certain late in the game, 4-team quarterback who blew the game for Baltimore. So that's real. Don't get me wrong, but Lamar Jackson wasn't out there. Derrick Henry wasn't out there. The Ravens didn't play their starters. So Devon White and Zach Bond were against second teamers as well.
Yeah.
And they didn't play well, period. And you can go look at the clips of the films, and that's Tampa Bay film for Devon White. That's exactly what went on. Wrong gaps, wrong run fits. And Zach Bond doesn't even look like an off-ball linebacker. But throughout practice, and Jakobi hasn't had a good camp, good practice sessions. The people that were there at Lincoln Financial Field know how poorly he performed there. So that's real. He's had a tough summer. My hope there is that, there's a ramp up period to get back from a very significant injury, and he seems to be progressing nicely. So I'm pretty much staying at my stance that he's got to be on the field week 1 as a starter. and we'll see how that shakes out. And I don't think they're going to throw Trotter into the deep end of the pool against Green Bay, but I'm starting to think more and more like he's got a chance to be on the field pretty early, maybe week 4, midseason. Because bottom line, I think these linebackers are going to understand nobody game plans for preseason games. Now, if you're an opposing offensive coordinator and you're looking at the Eagles defense and you're game planning and you're trying to attack, you're going right after those linebackers.
Yeah.
And that's by far my biggest concern. Not happy with Jordan Davis. Very happy with the second and third team guys. I thought they played well. Now, part of that is Baltimore might have the worst backup quarterback situation in the history of mankind.
Yeah, as you pointed out on Friday night.
Yeah. So I was very pleased. Patrick Johnson was a monster again late in the game. So very pleased with the backups, but yeah, 14 reps, like I said, for Devon White and Zach Bond, and they were not a good 14 reps.
Yeah, not good. I want to welcome everybody in this morning. A lot of good people here. Going to continue to talk about this defense on the opening segment. Forgot to mention our good friends, BetUS, who are now a sponsor of the program. Thank you to BetUS for sponsoring JAKIB Sports and Birds 365. More about them a little bit later on. John, I mean, if Devon and Zach Bond are the problem, I can't help but wonder. To me, it seems like Devon White's a little out of position. Shouldn't he be the will linebacker and have a guy like Nakobe or Trotter be the Mike, a guy that's more instinctive, a guy that maybe not as fast?
I think so. That's
what I don't get. Why is Devon White playing the Mike when you got all that speed? It would be better to put him at the will and let an instinctive guy get in there at the Mike.
Yeah, there were 32 players that played on defense for the Eagles in Baltimore. So again, if you go to the PFF grades, Van Sumeren was number 2. Nakobe was number 3. Trotter was a little bit further down. He was 19th because he had some issues in run defense. But did a nice job as a blitzer. So he did some nice things. Devon was 21st, got decent scores as a tackler, but really bad scores as a run defender in general, and below average in coverage. And Zach might have been the worst player on the field. He was 29th. They rated Moro Ojoma worse. He didn't have a good game. Terrell Lewis, but he only played 8 snaps. And Jordan Davis was dead last, but he only played 4 snaps. And they were a terrible 4 snaps.
Who was number 1, you said?
Number 1 was Patrick Johnson, deservedly so. And again, we're talking Patrick played 18 reps. Ben Van Sumeren played 19. Nakobe played 19. Trotter played the most. He was at 29, so he got a lot of work, and there were some positive signs. But, rookie, he's learning, understandable. And Devon and Zach Bond each played 14 reps. And look, it was inverse. I've talked about this for a long time. I said, you look at the Eagles linebacker depth chart, you play the third string and get similar production. I really believe that. If you have Trotter and Van Sumeren out there, I'd be just as comfortable with them. Yeah. I really would.
I almost wonder if at this point there's more upside to go to those guys.
It's not even hyperbole. And there would be mistakes because you're young players, but you're going to get mistakes. That's the whole thing with Devon White. That's why he's never lived up to the billing as the number 5 overall pick in Tampa Bay. He's always out of position. He's not instinctive. He can run from point A to point B really quickly. So if he guesses right, sometimes you're going to go, whoa. but
Yeah, because he's fast and very
overall
athletic. Yeah.
overall consistency has never been there. And you just got a little taste of it, and they're not game planning for him yet. Again, the good teams are gonna the good teams understand, and they're gonna do everything to make sure that he overruns plays and um you know gets fooled in coverage.
Especially a team like the Ravens that has Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
Well, yeah,
Good Lord,
I mean,
yeah.
it would have been ugly if those
Would
two
have been
were
really ugly. I mean, they're on the schedule this year, though, John. We're going to have
yeah.
to play those guys. I mean, barring injury.
Well, I'm
with
pretty
those guys out there.
confident that I'm pretty confident that's a late game. I forget exactly which week. I'm pretty confident that the linebackers on the field, that's week 13, I believe. I'm pretty confident the linebackers on the field aren't going to be Zach Bond and Devon White. Maybe one of them, but definitely not two of them, and maybe neither of them. So that's my number one worry. Number two would be the offense not throwing the ball down the field, which, Kellen Moore talked about that yesterday. He said, obviously, I think 15 times. Preseason's different. You're not trying to do different things, but for those who, are saying, well, maybe they're overcorrecting. And I said that with you yesterday. Jalen's not on the field.
Right.
That's the guy you got to correct to take what's there. You got a guy, and again, this is third team, so ultimately, who cares? But you got a guy like Jacob Harris, who very few people know, but the one thing about him is he ran a 4.39 at 6'5", so he's crazy fast, and he couldn't breathe. And it wasn't the humidity. The humidity was pretty stifling, but it wasn't the humidity. Yeah. He couldn't breathe because everybody was jumping the routes because they knew they weren't going downfield. And then Sunday, by the way, get back to practice, there were 5 pre-snap penalties for all the excited people about the motion. 5 pre-snap penalties. So that was a big step back in practice.
I assume that'll be better with QB1.
Well, you got to think. You got to think. But 2 of them came with the first team. At least 2 of them. Jordan had a false start. Mekhi had a false start. Might have been 3, but at least 2. So we'll see how that shakes out.
John, will they go outside the room and try and get a linebacker, do you think? Or is it,
No.
So they're going to work with.
But I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, I have no problem with the depth at linebacker on this team.
Yeah, but I know. But if the starters are as bad as you're assuming that they might be, then the depth would be the same.
I don't think they could be as bad as I think they are, to be honest. I mean, because I do not like that. I look at that situation like I look at Baltimore's back. Like, I can't believe Baltimore is going into a season with that backup quarterback situation, with a quarterback that's susceptible to injuries. I cannot believe it. I don't know how you do that. That's a great organization, much like the Eagles, from the fact of making good decisions. I don't know how they can do it. And that's how I kind of feel with the Eagles. You can't get a starting linebacker of any relevance at this point. So that ship has sailed. I don't have any problem with the Eagles' backup linebackers. But if you're looking for additions, and they added Kaden Stearns yesterday.
Looking to get better. Looking to be a better defense.
Well, they got to see if he can even play. His health,
unless you trade,
1.
It's not happening. And I don't think Howie's giving away any draft capital to go and trade for somebody.
No. Now, wide receiver 3, I think they might go outside the organization. So, yeah, but linebacker, I think they're very comfortable with their backups. And, Vic talks a good game in front of the camera. But you saw it, and Jeff saw it. So don't believe me if you think I'm the hater, which a lot of people always do. I don't think Jeff's going to think much differently. We haven't talked about it, but we'll see what he says.
Jeff Kerr coming up next here on Birds 365. I want to welcome everybody in. Good crowd this morning. Johnny Mac already almost 250 on YouTube. Plenty more watching on the other platforms. Bob's in here. Eduardo, Prince, Cali Baby, SMD Eagles, Twiz the Jigga, Jason 18, James Carver, our man James Carver's in here. James, buddy, you gotta give a call to our man Ananias Smith and tell him to wake up.
James, bad situation yesterday.
James, it's not looking good for your man Ananias Smith from all accounts. But Jeff Kerr coming up next. I want to welcome, like I said, all of you in. I want to remind everybody about our sponsor, BetUS. Are you looking for a new sports book this football season, everybody? BetUS is the answer, and JAKIB Sports is proud to announce our new football partnership for the upcoming season. Right now, receive a 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits, and up to 200% if you deposit using crypto. If it's good for former Birds QB Michael Vick, it's definitely good for JAKIB Sports. So thank you to BetUS for being here. Make sure you guys check out the link in the description and go check out BetUS. Thank you, BetUS, for sponsoring Birds 365. We'll be right back with Jeff Kerr, everybody.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sports book and casino.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Is the best vacation one that you find, or one you get lost in? One that takes you to new heights, or reminds you to go with the flow, to get your feet wet and your wheels spinning? One that lets you find your own rhythm, or get carried away? Find the best of yourself. Get lost in the woods. Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365. Back for another full week of content. Joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Jeff, how you doing on this Monday morning, brother?
Pretty good. Actually getting furniture replaced downstairs in the new office. So this might be the last time you see this wonderful backdrop before you.
Oh, new office. That's exciting. That's exciting. We'll be looking forward to. Is it going to be unveiled next week, Jeff?
It might be. It's here next week or 2 weeks. The furniture will be in. I still got to get my contractor to put shelves in and everything. But yeah, we're close.
All right, Jeff's big time in us with a new office. He's going to hang out with Tony Romo and Jim Nance this week. So big goings on at the Kerr household. Exciting days. How excited are you? I don't know how much you heard, but in Baltimore, I was not excited by the linebackers, Jeff Kerr, the starting linebackers. The backups played great.
That was one of my takeaways.
Yeah.
That was one of my takeaways from the game. They have a lot more depth at linebacker than I thought they did 3 weeks ago. I think Jeremiah Trier looks like he's going to be a player. Ben Van Sumeren had a good game. I thought Nakobe Dean played better than expected. Now, of course, Nakobe Dean still can't cover the pass, but he played well on Friday. But I'm a little concerned about Zach Bond and Devon White, and more so Zach Bond than Devon White right now.
Yeah, it was a difficult 14 reps, and it was interesting because Big Fangio spoke before practice, and I asked him about Nakobe, Ben, and Trot specifically, and he said good things, but he also put which he should. He tempered it by saying, they're playing against second and third team guys, and that, as we talked about, that Baltimore backup quarterback situation is just, I don't know what's going on. That's a good organization. I don't know how they can go into a season with that backup quarterback situation, but
they went from a situation where they had Tyler Huntley and Anthony Wright, who, by the way, people forget, Wright started a playoff game and actually played pretty decently for them and to what they got now.
Yeah, and Lamar's the MVP. He's a great player, but he's susceptible to getting injured. So I think you better have a better backup plan than Josh Johnson. But that's me.
But by the way, John, did you happen to see the whole circle of life thing with Josh Johnson this weekend with the Trotters?
Oh, well, I did not, but he's been.
So when Trotter came back to the Eagles the third time was in 2009, his first game was against the Bucks. Josh Johnson was the starting quarterback.
Oh
Who did Trotter Jr. sack on Friday night?
Yeah. Well, and by the way, Trotter Jr. looked good. I'm starting to think he's going to be on the field sometime this season. Not week 1, but whether it's week 4, week 8.
Thank you.
Here's the Josh Johnson resume. I don't know if we have enough time left in the show. Tampa Bay, San Francisco, Sacramento Mountain Lions of the great, I think that was
the United Football League.
UFL, Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, back to San Francisco, back to Cincinnati, New York Jets, Indy, Buffalo, Baltimore in 2016. So he's back to Baltimore. Giants, Texans, Raiders, Redskins, not the Commanders, Redskins, the great San Diego Fleet, back to some minor league football. That would be AAF. Yeah. Detroit Lions, the Los Angeles Wildcats,
XFL,
San Francisco, back to San Francisco, back to the Jets, Denver, again back to San Francisco, and Baltimore. That is Josh Johnson. By the way,
played in every minor league football major one since the first XFL in 2001.
And Eagles fans love him from the championship game when Hassan Reddick wrecked that. I think
Eagles fans like Josh Johnson because
I think Christian McCaffrey was a better quarterback that day than Josh Johnson. But that's the Ravens' backup. So that's embarrassing, by the way. But this is an Eagles show. The whole point about Vic saying tempering things with the backup linebackers, which he should because that's important context. But guess what? Lamar wasn't out there. Derrick Henry wasn't out there. The vast majority of the Ravens starters weren't out there.
Even Nelson Aguilar wasn't out there.
Nelson wasn't out there. So Zach Bond and Devon White were dealing with backup players, and they were getting gouged, and they were in the wrong gaps and doing the wrong things. And when you get to September 6th in Brazil and Matt LaFleur, that's a good team, good coaching staff, good offense. What do you think they're game planning for, Jeff?
Oh, I'm game planning for them. I'm sending Dontrevion Wicks and see. I'm drawing a blank on the Packers receivers because there's so many of them.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson,
Jaden Reed.
Jaden Reed. So we just named 4 legit NFL players. Oh, by the way,
you don't even talk about Watkins because he's always hurt, but he's phenomenal when he does play. Green
Josh
Bay's
Jacobs
loaded.
is there. Oh man, it could be ugly if they don't get this fixed.
Jeff, why to me does it feel like they're both playing out of position? Like Devon White, I don't think he should be a Mike, and he's playing at the Mike. And then Zach Bond, it was really not brought in here to be an off-ball linebacker, but he's been an off-ball linebacker. Is the switch as simple as, putting them in better positions? I think Devon White would be better served as a will linebacker, and a guy like Nakobe Dean or Jeremiah Trotter Jr., take your pick, the more instinctive guy, is better at the mic. Am I wrong in saying that?
You have a low suit and you're trying to make it 3 of a kind. That's basically my best analogy for it. I mean, they just don't have it. It's, Devon White's going to be on the field. I think he'll be on the field week 1. I think they like his athleticism, but I mean, look, Zach Bond looked like he was going to be the starter week 1. And then this past week, I don't think he's done anything. I think they like his toughness, but how much is toughness going to get you when guys are just beating you across the middle when you're out of position? Look, this defense should be a lot better than what it is, but the linebacking situation, again, I've said it all season. It was organizational malpractice, what they did.
Yeah, that's so, I'm not the hater. Listen to Jeff. Organizational malpractice. I might steal that from you because I'm kind of feeling that way. At the linebacker position, unless they shift gears. And I thought coming off that game, Jeff, we might see a different, we might see a sea change at Sunday's practice because it's been 10 straight practices of Devon White and Zach Bond as the starters. No competition in theory, like you saw Ringo mixing in at times with Isaiah Rodgers, Quinyon Mitchell in the slot. Linebackers have been steady, and then they're back out there for day 11 after that performance. What am I missing?
Beats me. I mean, look, I just don't think they want to throw Trotter into the fire yet. I don't think they want to throw Ben Van Summer into the fire yet, and they know Nakobe Dean's limitations. I mean, that's the guy I think that can challenge those two.
Well, Nakobe has limitations. Don't get me wrong, but he is what people thought Nakobe Dean was at Georgia compared to the 2 guys in front of him. Like, he's better than those 2 guys.
I agree. I think Nakobe Dean should be getting that opportunity right now. I don't know why he's not.
Yeah, and maybe it is just. And he's coming back from a serious injury, and he's getting incrementally better. And we still have time.
You remember, John, he did admit to us he wasn't really cleared for full anything until basically
minicamp. So he wasn't, he I think the assumption is he's cleared. He's back to being what he was, but it doesn't work that way. You generally need a ramp up. I would be stunned if Nakobe Dean's not a starting linebacker on this team against Green Bay.
I think Nakobe looked a lot better than Zach Bond. I mean, you're not playing against the greatest guys. I know that, but I thought Nakobe did look decent in the game on Friday night compared to what I was expecting after hearing about what he looked like in practice.
Yeah.
You think it's going to be Nakobe and Devon week 1?
I do. Week 1, and I think it's
why if that's the case, you're telling me it's going to be Nakobe at the will and Devon at the mic?
Well, I don't know because,
they could change it.
They had a dime package yesterday, and Nakobe was the only player on the field. So I think things are trending positively. Like, I think a lot of people shut off, and I wrote about this at SI. Oh, they're out there for the first rep, and they shut it off. But there was a ton of rotation. I saw Nakobe out there with Devin. I saw Nakobe out there with Bond. I saw Nakobe out there with Trotter. He was the only linebacker in the dime package. So while the first play, it's been the same two guys. They are shipped. They are, and you would think at this time, Jeff, that you're shortening the rotation, so to speak, like a basketball coach. They seem to be lengthening the rotation. So I think that's the sign where I look at, well, probably it's going to be Nakobe Dean week 1. And then we'll see who plays Mike, who plays Will, who's got the green dot. Yeah, but to me, I mean, Vic must like something about Devon White. I don't know.
I think it's athleticism.
That's well, yeah. Everybody knows he from line A to B, he's phenomenal. You know, unfortunately, that's not what linebacker play is about. I don't know. Does PFF have a personal bias against Devon White?
I don't think so. Do the Bucs have a personal bias against Devon White?
Well, he loves Todd Bowles, and by the way, he's a great guy. I'm rooting for him.
He's
I know
easy to
people
root
don't
for.
believe that, but
Isaiah Rodgers is easy to root for too.
There's nothing that says this is going to turn around to me from what he did in Tampa, and what he did in Tampa is so overrated. I mean, he was consistently bad, except for the 3-game run to the Super Bowl.
You know what, John? Again, I'll switch because I cover 2 sports. I mentioned the Phillies today. I put out a tweet about their certain guys' numbers since July 1st, and I put JT Realmuto out there. Someone goes, "Oh, your JT Realmuto stats flawed because he came back on July 20th." I'm like, he's still hitting 150. You know, he's not hitting any better. You know, I don't know what you want. It's kind of like the same thing with Devon White, right? It's people just don't want to admit that there's a reason why this guy's not in Tampa Bay anymore. He's not that good.
Yeah.
And
we're going to see.
Yeah,
and hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully the light comes on. But do I need to bring him up again? 2019 as a rookie, 68 of 90 all-ball linebackers. 2021, 62 of 83. 2020, sorry. 2021 was his worst season, 79th of 86. Had a score in the 30s. You never even see that, Jeff. 2022, 74th of 81. 2023, 80 of 82. Everybody thinks that was his worst season. That's where I hear it every day from my buddy Ed Krause. Well, he's worried about his contract. He got hurt. That was his worst season. No, it wasn't. That was his 3rd best season. He was far worse in 2021 and 2022. He actually played better.
He's always out of position. That's my issue with him. He's just always out of position. And you know, this is where I feel bad because someone I'm really rooting for is Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And I want to see him do well in this league. But this organizational malpractice they created, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. will probably be playing a lot earlier than people think.
Listen, if you guys are right, I'm at the point where why not just rip the Band-Aid off on Trotter Jr.? I know he might not be ready, but if the other guys are as bad as they look in right now, shoot, just put the young guy out there. You got 4 years with him. He's going to get better each game. Rip the Band-Aid off and let him play. I mean, if the linebackers are going to be bottom 5 anyway.
I'm going to tell you this, Zander. Anybody remember Macho Harris? I thought he was a really good player in training camp. He had his limitations too, but if they wouldn't have thrown him into the fire week 1, he wouldn't have been as bad as he was the first 5 weeks of the year, and then you never heard from him again. If he had that time, I'm not saying Macho Harris is going to be an all-pro or anything, but I saw it with him. I saw it with Nate Allen. They just threw these guys in, and it just did not work out. And these guys are solid football players, but You throw them into the Wolves, and you get bit by the Wolves. It ain't good.
That's true, Jeff. Let me ask you about
Will Shipley, perfect example. He admitted it to me on Friday night. You have self-doubt. You made it, but you have self-doubt. You can play. He said that touchdown he had Friday night got rid of that.
Good stuff for Will Shipley. I thought he had a great game, by the way. But Jeff, real quick, staying on the defense. I know we just extensively talked about the linebackers. We've been doing it for the first 40 minutes of the show here. If this is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, how concerned are you on this defense to help them get there? I mean, we've talked overall, not just on the linebacker position, but you want to get up to an 18th, 15th ranked defense in the league, somewhere in that range, and your offense, a top 5, presumably offense, can take you over the top. Do we have concerns on the defense even being middle of the pack at this point?
I still think they could be middle of the pack, even with linebacker, because I think your secondary is going to be a lot better than maybe I thought. I like how they're putting Quinyon Mitchell in the slot. He's going to be a player, by the way. I think Quinyon Mitchell's going to be really good.
Yeah, he's a very good player.
Yeah.
My concern there, Jeff, is I don't know why he's playing in the slot.
You think it's to give Rodgers and Ringo a fair opportunity?
No offense, but I don't care about a fair opportunity.
Yeah, I'm with you,
John. And Vic said it again yesterday when we saw. By the way, Vic was great defining what a corner is. A corner is a corner.
That's one thing I learned yesterday.
I think we all know what corner is. No, we don't, Vic. So thank you for explaining it to certain people. But in the case of Quinyon, he admitted, yeah, in a perfect world, he'd be outside. But basically, depth issues, getting the best 3 on the field, that type of thing. For the short term, he's going to play inside basically. And yeah, I don't agree with that. Like, I can make do with Avonte Maddox for a couple weeks before Cooper DeJean gets ramped up. I can live with that. Rather than messing with this guy, because I think this guy has a chance to be like a Pro Bowl level corner early in his career, like Christian Gonzalez was last year before he got hurt. Witherspoon, you've seen it recently. Stingley, Surtain. Those are big time players, but I think he's got that kind of talent, natural ability. And I don't want to play in the slot. I think it's a waste of time.
Doesn't it feel like the eventual starters, once Cooper finally gets ramped up and back out, Cooper in the slot, Quinyon outside slot?
Yes. Yeah. And that's why, so what? He got hurt for 3 weeks. And maybe you can't get to Cooper in the slot and say until week 4 or week 5. Say, all right, Avonte Maddox is healthy. He's proven he can play that position at a high level.
But then does it go back to the safety depth right now?
Well, the safety depth is an issue right now because CJ's out, but that's not a serious injury.
I mean, even when CJ comes back, because and again, our boy James Bradbury can really fix this problem. Yeah,
James is. That's one I got right. The more, Vic loves James Bradbury.
Vic loves him. And you know what, John? I talked to a couple national people this week that are in the know with the Eagles. It's basically the same thing you did. Don't let James Bradbury see the field because Vic won't take him off.
Yeah, he's too smart, and I knew he'd love him, and sure enough, he's loving him. So I don't know what, because the Eagles brought in Caden Stearns. Obviously, Vic had him in Denver. Vic drafted him, was a big part of that. So, but he's got to get healthy. I saw him yesterday. It looked like he was limping. Did you see him?
Yeah, I saw him. I'm like, who's that guy limping? I'm like, oh, that's Caden Stearns. I'm like, oh, why is he here again?
Yeah, so evidently he said he's not going to practice for a week. It looks like more than that. We'll see if he's even involved. And then Sydney's going to be back at some point as well. So, I don't think long-term safety is as big as an issue as people make it out to be. but right now to get through training camp, they don't have enough bodies. And that's why Abonte's starting at safety right now, in place of CJ, in practice. And then James Bradbury kind of mixes in. I don't know. I don't want to mess with Quinyon Mitchell. I don't want to mess with him. That's where he's going to play. We all stipulate that. Vic stipulates that. That's ultimately where he's going to play, outside. Let him play outside.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Maybe they just like what they're seeing out of Rodgers and Ringo. But again, they're going to go back to the bench when Cooper does come back. So that's where I agree with you. It's why not just play him outside? Deal with it.
We're going to say, Jeff, let's move into something a little bit more positive. This defense is giving me agita.
I mean, we're not being negative here.
We're not. But I'm just saying, in general, the defense is giving me agita. As my
if you don't have the pom poms out, you're being negative.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this defense is giving me agita. Jeff, what did you see in the game on Friday night? Who stood out to you in a good way? You mentioned Will Shipley. I thought he was great in the game. Who else stood out to you in the game that is a guy that doesn't have a lot of expectations, but you're like, oh, maybe this guy can be a contributor? Is it a wide receiver? Is it a Will Shipley? Who did you see in the game that stood out to you?
It's so hard to take away stuff from the first preseason game, but I did mention Will Shipley. I thought Trevor Keegan had a really good game. As a matter of fact, I feel a lot better about their second team offensive line than I did a week ago.
They were great.
Yeah, his PFF numbers came out. They were tremendous. I think it was his PFF number. Somebody sent me it on Twitter.
I asked Will about Trevor, and he said he's fun to run behind. So I thought Trevor was great in the run. He had really good pass blocking numbers too. It looks like they have something in Trevor Keegan. I would not be shocked if he started down the line.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like when I was watching the game, I thought Keegan, because they were running it so well. Kenny ran it well. Shipley ran it well. Lou Nichols, Ty Davis Price, Kendall, all of them had effective runs during the game. And Darian Kennard Darian Kennard played the whole game.
The whole game. I didn't realize he played the whole game.
Either did I. He played all 83 snaps. And he graded out well. Max Sharping graded out well. Nick Yates graded out well.
Tyler Steen was solid.
Yeah, Tyler. But with Keegan specifically, I thought Keegan did a nice job in the running game because they were running so effectively. But according to PFF, he was below average as a run blocker, and he did a really good job as a pass blocker.
Yeah, wasn't he the highest rated pass blocker?
Yeah, he was the highest
really
rated pass blocker.
Yeah,
but he was down as far as run block. But overall, it was a very good performance. And, when people talk about Mekhi Becton versus Tyler Steen, and it certainly looks like Mekhi's going to win that job now. But, 2025, I think Trevor Keegan might be the guy.
He's a good player. It's, I heard a lot of good things about him coming out of Michigan. Obviously, I watch a lot of Big Ten football, so I remembered him from Michigan. He was an unheralded hero on that national championship team. But, just watching him in practice, watching him in the game on Friday, rewatching the game, he's got some talent.
Yeah, he looked good. I mean, I saw the numbers. I think he had 44 snaps, 0 pressures and sacks allowed, 80.1 pass blocking grade, highest of all offensive linemen. So I loved the pick coming out of Michigan. I guess it's great to hear that he's developing nicely. But John, we haven't heard much from him, and Jeff, we haven't heard much from him though in practice. I mean, it was good to see him out there in the game.
You know what's funny, Zander?
I didn't hear much from him like in practices at all.
You know what's funny? Like if you look at the day 3 picks they took, right? Shipley's been, solid in camp. I mean, he's hit a wall a little bit, but he's been solid. Like he looks like he can play. Trevor Keegan can play. Johnny Wilson looks like he's better than what I thought he was going to be. I mean, Trotter is, 5th round steal at this point.
I saw a couple guys with Johnny Wilson, by the way, because I'm going to guarantee here, if there's one position the Eagles are going to add, it's wide receiver.
Third wide receiver, absolutely.
they're not playing Johnny Wilson this year.
No.
But I saw a couple guys, like he made a really nice catch on Quinyon Mitchell at the end of practice, but he made 2 catches in practice, and everybody's saying those are good catches. He didn't catch them.
Yeah.
You saw Michael Clay and Joe P behind him. He bobbled them as he went to the ground. He didn't catch them. So I think a lot of people miss that. Yeah, I don't think Johnny's ready. He's going to make the team, and he's not being. Anaya Smith, on the other hand, is really up against it.
I don't think Anaya Smith is making this team.
No, it's going to be different, and they don't want to cut a 5th round pick, believe me. But he's struggling, and he's struggling.
You know what?
He's struggling mentally. Yeah.
Perfect example yesterday, John. Was it Andre Sam that was going against him?
Yes.
Yeah, a speedy receiver against a safety on one-on-ones that favors the offensive player, and you couldn't make the play.
Yeah. And he had a chance to make it, and Andre Sam did a good job, and CJ just lit up.
CJ was so fired up that whole Did you hear CJ be like on the touchdown Goedert had over Blankenship? He goes, "Oh, you ain't getting that 88. I'm coming back soon."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. You know, it is a cruel world when you're struggling and CJ Gardner-Johnson's around, because he will let you know that you are struggling.
Poor Anaya Smith has been getting throttled, I've heard, by CJ Gardner-Johnson in practice.
Yeah, he was not kind to when Anais was
he
not
looked like
able
a
to make
lost
a play.
puppy at his locker on Friday night. I'm talking to Shipley and I'm talking to Keegan, and then I see Anaya Smith. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it could be the football field could be a difficult place when you're struggling, and it has been that way. But yeah, they by far, to me, I'm going to say this, by far to me, the Eagles' best opportunity at wide receiver 3 is Britton Covey.
Get separation,
and they just don't want to use him because of the size and the limitations.
Crash test Covey. It's true.
Which is ironic because he could be a Cole Beasley type player for this team.
Yeah,
I know, but Jeff, he is small, man. I love the player. He does create incredible separation, and when you watch him, you can see it. I mean, John pointed it out on the show. We were talking about a bubble screen, and I'm like, boy, he got hit at the end of it, and he's like, I can't even get to that because I just can't believe he made something happen on a bubble screen. So, I mean, he does.
By the way, it's the most inefficient play in football.
I know, and he made 8 or 9 yards out of it. But at the end of it, Jeff, he got hit low and got flipped and destroyed. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how long Britton Covey's body can take the beating of being an everyday wide receiver 3.
That's what I worry about because he's their punt returner. Like, just like how I don't think Isaiah Rodgers is going to be their kick returner while he's starting at cornerback. And if he's not, then he's their kick returner.
I want to bring up the super chat just because we talked about this already. This is why we have Jeff Kerr on, everybody. Vulnerable Vitality drops us $20. Thank you, brother, for the super chat. We appreciate you being here. Make sure you guys drop a like on the show. A lot of people watching this morning. Let's get 200 likes. He brings up, I saw a wild stat from the preseason game. Trotter Sr. played against Josh Johnson in his first NFL game. Guess who Trotter Jr. got his first sack on? Josh Johnson continues to live in Eagles history. I love it. And Jeff Kerr brought that up at the beginning of the interview. Vulnerable. Thanks for bringing that up. That's pretty crazy, Jeff.
By the way, Josh Johnson's story. So Ed Kratz and I were talking to Jalix Hunt, and I asked him, what was it like catching Josh Johnson on that? He took off, and Jalix looks at me big-eyed. He's like, wait a minute, that was Josh Johnson I just got. I said, yeah. And he's like, man, he's fast, like, for his age. I'm like Jalix Hunt, because I grew up watching this guy, and I joked probably for like 20 teams. So, he was like a kid in a candy store Friday night. Like, it was, for me, talking to Jalix, the moment just didn't seem too big for him at all. It's like, man, I found a way. I did it. Like, I'm going to make the most of this.
I think he's going to be a good player.
Yeah. Remember that famous Josh McCown picture with his with his daughter? I don't know if I don't know how many daughters. I think it was his daughter and friends. I don't know. But there were like 7 or 8 of them with all his jerseys. It was a great picture back in the day. I'm sure you remember it, Jeff.
Oh yeah.
Josh would need like 30. It's absurd how many teams he's played for. Good for him. I mean, he's made it this far in his NFL career. And
he was out of football for a while too.
Yeah, people keep saying, he can't play, and we all joke about him. But I mean, he's been an NFL player since 2008, and now he's set to back up Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. I think it's a bad decision. I've said pretty consistently, but you got to give that guy credit for hanging around as long as he has.
By the way, John, speaking of Jalen's son, how about Vic's like backhanded compliment or whatever you want?
Yeah, that was yeah.
I was like, wait, hold on, replay. What did he just say?
He went backhanded on Jalen's son. Yeah. I mean, I think we all know that Jalix is a developmental player.
What did Vic say though? I didn't hear that.
He basically said, I'll try to get the exact quote. He basically said,
way better than I thought.
Yeah, better. It hasn't been great at practice. Played better than I thought, type of thing. And yeah,
he really is brutally honest.
It's awesome.
It's great.
Yeah. He can be the Eagles defensive coordinator for 20 years for all.
So here it is. He said, "Yeah, I thought Hunt did a little better than I thought he would, just based on practices." So he's basically saying, "Yeah, he's been pretty shitty in practice." I'm doing the big translation. He didn't say that. I think he's improving and he's coming, and I think he'll continue to improve. So yeah, that was, I thought.
I mean, he likes him. It's clear he likes him.
Oh, well, he's a big reason why he's here, but he knows it's going to take some time. So he basically said, I thought Hunt did a little better than I thought he would, just based on practices. So, he hasn't been great in practices, and he showed up a little bit in Baltimore. I wouldn't say drastically, but he was okay. Jalix, he got a really bad tackling score. I know that. So he missed a couple tackles, but he did pretty well on pass rush. And he played a lot. Played 24 snaps, so
he's going to get a lot of time this preseason. And I like how the approach of him is like they got enough depth there where they really don't have to play him if they don't want to.
I'm starting to get concerned at nose tackle.
Now
Jordan
was asked that yesterday.
Yeah, Jordan played poorly, but he only played 4 snaps. So I'm not gonna overrate that. He did play poorly for 4 snaps, and that did not help the linebacker.
When him and Jalen left, it was when they both penetrated, and Jalen had the pass deflection. They're like, all right, yeah, we're good.
But Vic was asked about those backup nose tackles, and all he could come up with was Milton Williams. And then Milton spoke, and Milton's like, oh, I don't play nose. But he barely plays
nose tackle.
Yeah. So that's Marlon T. That's PJ Mustafer, your guy from Penn State. Even
Gabe Hall count in that mix?
Nah, Gabe Hall's too, well, he only weighs like 292, so I don't know. But you would think it would be Marlon first and PJ second, and he's already thinking about playing Milton Williams at the nose. That's what Jonathan Gannon had to do with Javon Hargrave in year 1, and that did not work out well.
No. Then we saw what happened when he didn't play him at the nose in year 2. He got a lot of money.
Yeah. And that means Jordan Davis, again, has to play a lot, or he's not going to be able to use those 50 fronts as much as he wants to.
What's Ndamukong Suh doing these days? Is he still
right?
He's still investing?
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
Yeah,
man.
he's a really smart guy.
I think people don't realize how smart Ndamukong is because they think about him kicking
destroying
people's
people.
heads.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember I was in like a Twitter chat with him last year. We were just talking about football, and someone said, "Hey, I'm Suey. You want to come back?" Because I'm too smart to come back.
Yeah, he is.
He's right.
He's smart.
AKA, I'm making more money for less risk than I am, going back and playing football.
He invests
and
his
bashing my
money.
head.
He's very wise with his money. He's, he made a lot of money playing football, and he's enjoying himself.
Yeah, he's using it right. I want to go to one guy. We just got a super chat about him, and I've been waiting to ask about him. We talked about him a little bit in the game on Friday in our recap. Johnny Mack. D Love drops a super chat. D Love, thank you, brother. He says, I feel like safety Tristan McCollum is an underrated player. Can you tell us more about him? Has he had a good camp? You heard about him kind of in the game. I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I thought he looked good in the game.
Yeah.
I thought
what have you guys seen from him so far through camp?
He looked physical. He looked I thought he looked really good in the game. I don't know. The Eagles don't seem to love him. I mean, look, when camp started, he was taking second team reps. Now he's taking third team reps because they're trying, they moved Bradbury, they moved Avonte Maddox. So they're the second team guys now. And he's filtered down to the third team.
And it's a shame because I feel like he would make a lot of NFL rosters.
Yeah, and now they're bringing in Kaden Stearns, and it's like, and Sydney's coming. So you start to look at the numbers game and say, how does he make it? I do think they like him. I think he'll be here on the practice squad if they can get him through waivers. Yeah. But I thought he should get a chance to compete more for a roster spot. Like I would have kept Devontae in the slot and let Tristan get those second team safety reps.
He practices. I mean, obviously it's not a shocker, but he trains like he does one-on-ones with his brother in Tampa, and Zion's going to be a starting cornerback for the Bucs this year.
Yeah, I think he's played well. Evidently, the Eagles don't think he's a backup safety at this point by their actions. Nobody said that to me, but their actions tell me, they're bringing in Stearns. They're moving Avonte. They're moving Bradbury. So, yeah. And Sydney's going to be here when he's healthy. And, Kaden Stearns is going to be here when he's healthy. If he ever gets healthy.
Yeah, I mean, you said he showed up and he looked like he was limping.
Yeah.
Coming off the failed physical.
He was limping more than me. And I got my damn, I'm like, what the hell is going
John's
on?
been doing a good job staying away from those camera tripods the last couple weeks.
Yeah, John's got camera pod PTSD at this point.
I do. I saw one yesterday. I'm like looking at it like, God, boy,
he wanted to kick it.
Yeah.
I can't stand these people. Worst people in the world.
You know what they should? Honestly, people should pay to just stand with John at training camp. It's entertaining. It is the most entertaining thing. You learn a lot and you're entertained. He's like a late night talk show host.
I believe it. I would imagine John's up there with the top 2 or 3 guys to stand with of all the beat reporters in Philly. That would be my guess. Is that Johnny Mack?
There are a couple people you kind of want to stand near at training camp and just kind of jot your notes with, because they'll see stuff you don't see, and then you'll see stuff they don't see, and then you'll see some backhanded compliments from John McMullen while the play's going on.
Jeff, thanks for joining.
Hey, you gotta have fun, man.
You gotta.
Training camp is a grind.
Yep, no doubt about it. Johnny Mack knows how to do it. We talk about it all here on Birds 365. Jeff Kerr, thanks for joining the show, man. You were great today, as always. One last thing on your way out the door. Is there anything that happened in the car ride that the viewers of Birds 365 need to know about, whether it's
John,
a snack and a playlist? What was going on with you?
John, do you want to share? I was too busy, trying not to get us killed.
No, it was
Jeff,
pretty,
you were the designated driver. Is that
it was pretty anticlimactic. I mean, Martin wanted to leave.
Martin wanted to ditch me.
Yeah, as he typically does. If you're not there on time, Martin Frank's leaving you. He's not a foxhole.
I told him,
even if it's not his car, he's just like, give me the keys.
He's out. He's out, man. He's like, we got to get there if he's not here.
Well, John did applaud me for my sense of direction when we're getting on off 95 to 395. He goes, "Oh, Jeff Kerr knows the back way in," and then we really are going to. He's like, "Oh man, maybe we got to."
Baltimore is a pain in the ass to find parking. They have no signs. It's
The streets are confusing.
It's terrible, and they got 97 parking lots. We were in A, which was essentially Camden Yards, and other guys had O, which I think we were in last year. And boy,
I've always been in B, so I knew how to get the B, and I thought you could still get the A for B, but obviously, luckily the guy, the parking guy, gave us great I'm like, okay, I know where A is. Just tell me how to get to A from here.
So Baltimore, and I've probably been there, I don't know, 10 times over the years, and I still can't get to a damn parking lot because A, they always move you. And B, there are no signs and nobody knows. Most of the parking, we got lucky this time because the parking attendant knew where A was.
He was really good.
Yeah, he was. And the press box was, we were expecting a disaster. And I don't know, Baltimore.
Nice.
Now I'm going to defend Baltimore. They have one of the best public relations staffs in the league.
Yeah, they do. And they're honest with you. Like, I talked to them earlier in the week, and they're like, "Well, not everything's ready yet." And
yeah, it was great. Though it was great.
Yeah.
It was so much better than the old press box. I don't know what they were worried about.
Yeah, I said to a couple guys on their PR staff that I know, I'm like, "Oh, you guys said this was." They're like, "Well, it's different than what we're used to," because they are used to being at the 50 and all that, and maybe it wasn't ready this week. I mean, maybe they met because of the elevator situation and stuff like that. But the press box itself is great.
Yeah, the press box was great. Now, I knew they weren't going to give us crab cakes for a preseason game, but they did give us a substantive crab dip.
That crab dip is good. Their food was incredible.
Yeah, it was. It's preseason. Like I said, they're not going to go all out, but yeah, overall, I'm going to give that's Kempski's job, but I'm going to give the new press box a thumbs up.
Was Jimmy there Friday night? I didn't see him.
I do not believe he went to the game. Yeah, I don't think he went.
Jeff, thanks for joining the show, man. We'll see what Jimmy Kempski goes to the next game this Thursday. Jeff, you heading down for the practice tomorrow?
Well, no. I got CBS duties this week.
Tell Romo to tip plays. I don't care. He's yelled at for tipping plays.
Talks. It's
tell him to tip plays. Tell him.
By the way, John, who's the best CBS team? I'll give him a holler for you.
I don't watch much football because I'm always at games. So I'm like, I don't. I mean, I think Jim and Tony are great. I think I don't know why people dislike Tony. I think
everybody rips Tony. I don't get Tony's a great guy, and everybody says he's inaccessible. Like, it all depends.
I think he's great. Now I thought he was a natural when he first started doing it.
He was the best.
He was he was one of those smart quarterbacks that could run things from the line of scrimmage. So he would tip plays and tell people, and they'd be in awe of it. Like, it's not that hard if you know what you're doing, and he knows what he's doing. So he would tell people before what they were running, and it would show. And I think he got in trouble for that.
Coaches did not like that. Yeah. They weren't crazy about it. Let's just
And I'm like, screw them, just do it.
My thing was, from what I heard this year, usually we have a week 1 doubleheader. I don't think we do because they made sure the 425 game was exclusive to Brady because he's making this broadcast. I think it's
by the way, speaking of TV, Jay Glazer was there yesterday.
I didn't even see him.
Because he was on the field.
Wasn't he shooting practice?
He was shooting. That's what I'm getting to. He was shooting video of practice, which we will literally be sniped by the snipers if we do.
Sniped and banned.
I'm obviously being a television partner as you guys are at CBS.
It doesn't get me. It doesn't get me far. We will for Jay.
Yeah, but it does for the national guys. They're essentially paying for this access. But from the point of the Eagles in competitive advantage, well, why the freak is Glazer out there getting close-up videos, Saquon Barkley, you know, on an outside zone play?
I'd love to
When
know
we're
if he
get
was told,
shut
like,
down 30 minutes earlier.
I love to know if he was told, dude, you can't do that. We can't do it.
Evidently, he was not told he can't do that because he did it, and he didn't take it down.
And you know what? Like, it's so tough for me. Like, and again, this is where I do sympathize with fans, because when I'll like tweet like a play, and I don't tweet that many things that go on, but I'll tweet like a one-on-one thing or two. And two guys, they asked me yesterday, "Is there any way we could see a video?" I'm like, no.
And by the way, I don't care that Jay did that. That's not the point. The point is the Eagles' competitive advantage bullshit. That proves how bullshit it is.
Well, I'll tell you how bullshit it is, because the team that's won the Super Bowl 3 times out of the last 5 years, every practice is open. A team that wins 10 games every year, Baltimore, has every practice open. A team that hasn't had a losing season since Tommy Maddox was their damn quarterback, open.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every practice.
So anyway, yeah. Anyway, pet peeve. All right, Jeff. Thanks, bud. Enjoy
Jeff, thanks for
New
joining
York.
the show, man. Make sure you guys follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff Kerr CBS. Read all his work at CBS Sports. Does a great job covering Eagles, NFL, and the Phillies, as he mentioned earlier. Jeff, thanks for being here, man. We'll talk to you next week. All right, brother?
Yep, that was great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
See you, Jeff. There's Jeff Kerr joining us on Birds
Sorry,
365.
went on a tangent there, Zander.
And when we have Jeff Kerr, John, it's the tangent segment. That's what the segment is. It's a tangent segment between you and him, and it's great stuff. So we appreciate everybody being here. A lot of viewers this morning, Johnny Mac. Make sure you guys smash that like button. I'd like to try and get 200 likes. Can we get to 200 likes? Will the fans show us the love to get to 200 likes? I think we have about 100 likes right now through the first hour. So let's see if we can get up to 200 likes. Coming up next, we'll have Kaden Steel in hour number 2. We'll talk about the offense coming up next after the break. Johnny Mac had practice yesterday, so he was down there. We did a practice recap last night on the channel. And then today, what are they off today, John, or a walkthrough, or what's today?
Yeah, I think they have a walkthrough. I'll double check, but yeah, they'll be up in Foxborough tomorrow for practice. Then Wednesday, walkthrough. Thursday, game. Friday off. Saturday back at the NovaCare complex.
So what are they next weekend? Are they Saturday and Sunday at the NovaCare?
They are Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Ooh.
Practice. Yeah, gearing up for that final preseason
big
game.
7-day week here for us. We'll be live every day. We'll be doing some shows every day on the channel.
Yeah, it's gonna be another. They don't have 4 in a row, but I know they have 3 in a row. I'll pull up the schedule when I get to break here, but yeah. So this week, a little bit of a lull locally because they're going to be in Foxborough, and there's only 1 joint practice instead of 2, which kind of sucks. But it is what it is.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. Let's get to our next commercial break. Before I do that, I want to tell everybody about our newest sponsor here on Birds 365, BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. The link is in the description if you want to bet on BetUS. We're going to be following along, by the way, on our Saquon Barkley jersey giveaway. For those who are just in here, I will post it up in the chat. If you become a member on JAKIB Sports, it's $5 a month to become a member on our channel. If you are a member of JAKIB Sports, you are automatically eligible to win a Saquon Barkley jersey. So what we're going to be doing is after each game, up to 20, because if they go to the playoffs and they win and they go to the Super Bowl, they'll have 20 games. We will give away 1 Saquon Barkley jersey if he hits over 125 yards from scrimmage. So passing receiving yards, rushing yards, kickoff yards, whatever it is. If he gets over
kickoff yards in there.
If he gets any yards, John, 125 yards of impact.
I'm joking because he's never going to reach.
I'm just saying.
He's never going to.
If he does get it, 125 plus, we're going to be giving away a Saquon Barkley jersey, 1 per week. So that could be up to 20. And then I got a bunch of other giveaways. Some of you saw the poster I teased last week, which was epic, a picture of Jalen Hurts, a painting, a drawing of him. A couple of people wanted to buy it from me. They're like, don't give it away. I'll buy it from you. It's a beautiful painting. So I'll show that off as well. But plenty of more giveaways for all of our members. And we're going to be doing that prop bet with Saquon Barkley on BetUS all season long. Are you guys looking for a new sports book this football season? Go to BetUS. BetUS is the answer. And JAKIB Sports is proud to announce our partnership with them for the upcoming football season. Right now, everybody, when you click that link, receive a 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. And if you deposit using crypto, it's up to 200% on a sign-up bonus. So good stuff there. If it's good for former Birds quarterback Michael Vick, it's definitely good for JAKIB Sports. So go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. The link is in the description. Before I hit the break, Alexander Harris, one of our newest members, by the way. This is a Johnny Mac appreciation super chat. Keep up the good work. Alexander Harris, we appreciate that super chat, man. And a great name to you. I am an Alexander as well. So we got 2 new members today, Jason A-Team and Alexander Harris. Thank you both, guys. Now let me tell you a little bit more about BetUS. We'll be back on the other side in about 3 minutes.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Is the best vacation one that you find, or one you get lost in? One that takes you to new heights, or reminds you to go with the flow? To get your feet wet and your wheels spinning? One that lets you find your own rhythm, or get carried away? Find the best of yourself. Get lost in the woods. Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Birds 365, a Monday edition, August 12th here, moving right along. I don't know what the countdown is to Sao Paulo. It's got to be like 20-something days.
Where we got? 12. We got, so 19 to 25 days, somewhere
25 days. There it is, maybe 25 days until the Philadelphia Eagles are back. officially, John, officially back. So it's exciting
Oh,
to
they're
see.
back. They're back
I
already.
lost you on audio. Once
You got me?
it's not you, it's me. My speaker came unplugged here.
Hmm.
There we go. Now I got you back. Sorry about that. John, I want to ask you about the offense here a little bit. You had practice yesterday. I know we didn't see much of the offense, really any of them in at least the first team in the preseason game. But what did you see yesterday from them? Let's give an update to the people who didn't catch our show yesterday and what went down at practice yesterday, how the offense looked, how Jalen Hurts looked, offensive line changes, anything in that regard.
No changes, certainly. Mekhi Becton still at right guard. Had his second puking episode. That was exciting. Not so much in a good sense, but that's just Mekhi. He's one of those guys that throws up a lot, but he seems to be locking down that right guard spot. Unfortunately for Tyler Steen, who got injured, and that's difficult league, man. You get hurt and you're a fledgling young player. It tends to have an effect, especially if they have a veteran guy. It's going to be interesting. I mean, if a 6'8" guy can play guard at a high level consistently, leverage aspect, things like that. And then offensively, I mean, Jalen Hurts still 11 for 11, no interceptions again. We'll see if that continues with New England. But, I started to think about the lack of throws down the field. Not a lot of that in camp. And usually when it is, it's like in one-on-ones, maybe 7-on-7s, a little bit. Starting to get concerned that Kellen Moore's going to be a little bit too conservative. Now, I'm not greatly concerned because when AJ's out there and Devontae's out there, you're going to want to take advantage of that, and to a certain extent, Dallas Goedert as well. But it's creeping up as a doubt in my mind. I will say that.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. We got Kaden Steel from NJ.com in the green room. We're going to bring up Kaden now. Let's go to our friend NJ from NJ.com. Kaden Steel joining us now. Kaden, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show. Good to have you here on this Monday. Thanks for being here.
Doing great. Thanks, guys, for having me today.
Yeah, good to see you, Kaden. Your namesake is here, Kaden Stearns. We'll talk about him, but exciting to get another Kaden in Philadelphia. I do want to talk about the offense first. If you heard what I was saying there, 11 yards. That was the extent of the stretching of the field in Baltimore. Now, the Eagles' backup receivers aren't great. Backup quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett's not known for being Brett Favre, but still 11 yards. And they had a couple, Kellen Moore pointed out, they had a couple shots about 15 yards that weren't successful. I don't know. I'm thinking about camp, and I take that over to camp, and have they been more conservative than you expected?
I haven't really thought about it that way when it comes to the preseason game, at least when just watching the offense and their lack of ability to get down the field. I morally blame that, or not blame that, but kind of thought about it in the way just because they have Johnny Wilson and Britton Covey and those guys as their top wide receivers, and they're not exactly field stretchers. So I didn't think about it in that way. But within training camp practices, it's not like they're taking a ton of long shots. I think the offense has done a better job of throwing the ball to the middle of the field from what I've noticed. But a lot of it has been more short and stuff to the flat and stuff in the middle more than stretching, deep balls down the sideline. But I'm not sure I read too much into it. I still think they will be explosive at the end of the day because, like you mentioned, John, they'll have A.J. Brown, they'll have Devontae Smith. So if they play conservative and they don't really stretch the field and attack the field, I mean, that would be a disappointing thing from, Kellen Moore when you have all those different talents. So not too worried about it, but I mean, you never know, I guess.
Kaden, what's been your takeaway so far? We're 11 practices deep. We're one preseason game I guess we can start with the preseason game. What were your big takeaways? Any players that stood out to you in that game? Any guys that are lower roster guys that you're like, wow, they might have an impact on this football team this year, or if not this year, in the future? Who stood out to you in the game on Friday?
At first, it might be the easy answer, but thought the corners looked pretty good for the most part. I'm not going to say they were perfect because they gave up some catches early, but Keely Ringo had a really, I think, solid night, especially with just drawing the ball out a couple times. Seems like he's definitely farther ahead than he was last year. I thought he played well. I think Quinnen, played really well, and that's a player that you have to be excited about. Not only on Friday night, almost finishing with an interception, and I thought it was interesting. Nick mentioned it. Other than, I guess, that one play, he wasn't really noticeable. But that's not a bad thing. He was saying you don't want rookie corners to be guys.
That's a good thing for a corner.
Yeah. So I thought he looked good. I thought Isaiah was pretty solid for the most part, and all three of those guys have been having strong training camp. So if you're an Eagles fan that dreaded watching the secondary last year, and there's still a chance that during the year they have some ups and downs. It's a pretty relatively new unit, other than Darius Slay, but they look pretty strong overall. I thought the linebackers played pretty well. I thought Nakobe looked good from I wasn't sure what to expect because I think he's been one of the more disappointing players in training camp so far, but he had a really strong game, and so did Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and I wasn't sure what to expect of him this year, but finished with a sack. He just didn't look out of place, played good on special teams as well. Overall, I think it was a really strong performance from the linebackers, especially these guys on it looks like the second unit, and then the corners.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was saying about the linebackers, Kaden. The backup linebackers played really well, and I would add Ben Van Sumeren to that list as well. The starting linebackers, what was that? What was that, Kaden Steel? And they're not out there again. It was interesting to me that Bick kind of went all Bick when I asked him about Nakobe yesterday and Ben and Trot. And he said, yeah, they played well, but you got to temper that a little bit because they're against second and third team players, which he's right. Devon White and Zach Bond played poorly against second team players. Lamar Jackson wasn't out there. Derrick Henry wasn't out there. The vast majority of our offensive line wasn't out there. What are we doing here with these linebackers, Kaden?
Yeah, I got no clue. I did find it funny that Vic said, "Oh, Zach, he played pretty good besides messing up multiple times." So it wasn't like he was very effusive in his praise necessarily. I appreciate Vic's honesty. A compliment sometimes comes with a backhand one.
Oh yeah,
sometimes with Vic, which is
Alex Hunt got one of those too. By the way,
yes, he did. But yeah, the linebacker position, I don't think. In practice, consistently, and in the preseason game, it's Devon White and Zach Bond lining up with the first team. So it seems like Vic has the most amount of trust in those guys. And I'm not sure, at least maybe for Devon White, it's because he's played a ton of football in the NFL, and that could be the reason why. Zach Bond is an interesting case because he hasn't been a full-time starter ever. He's never been a truly impactful player at the inside linebacker spot, or he's been a rotational edge / outside linebacker. He put a little inside linebacker with the Saints, but there's nothing from his career that would make you believe that he's definitely going to step up and be a really good player here. But something Vic has seen, and he talked about yesterday, there was a few plays that I guess he saw with the Saints, so he felt like Zach could do it. Maybe with time and a couple more weeks into the season, because this is still relatively new for him. Maybe he'll end up being better, but I got to agree with you that they weren't the most impressive players. And then at the same time, I give credit to Nakobe, but you still have to be able to cover in this league. And I didn't see it. We haven't seen that much in training camp. I don't know if the game necessarily gave him many tests in that area. And I think he's great when he's going downhill. Yeah. And there's a fit for that. There's a role for that on this defense as a third linebacker who can blitz, and I think he could be a productive player in that role. But if you can't cover, I'm just not sure what his ceiling is. And then at the end of the day, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. might have potential, There's a reason he went in the 5th round, and he's a rookie. So, like, this linebacker group, I don't know if you could feel good about. You mentioned Ben Van Sumeren has all the athleticism in the world. How is he progressing when it comes to everything else? That would be interesting to watch. But this linebacker group, we talked about this defense, and I'm excited about the secondary. Linebacker group, I'm pretty concerned about, though.
How about the edge rushers, Kaden? We've talked a lot about the linebackers today. I've been pushing on Johnny Mack, where I'm like, what's going on with Bryce Huff? Where's he been? Any concern on the edge rushers coming into the year?
Yeah, well, I'll say this, and Bryce Huff hasn't been noticeable to me, and maybe that's I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I really don't want to overreact, because at the end of the day, he's going against Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata every single day in practice. And
I never noticed Hassan Reddick at practice.
Yeah,
Aiden, for the same reason.
Edge rushers are tougher in general, I feel like, to notice at practice. Unless they're going full out, like, they're not bringing the quarterback down on the ground. Like, it's tough to read into Bryce Huff right now. But he hasn't flashed, and I think that's more to do with Lane and Jordan Mailata. So I don't know what to feel about it. I think we're not going to really know until the regular season starts how good Bryce Huff is. Week 1 against Green Bay and week 2 against Atlanta, I think we'll start to find out more. So right now, I think he's more of a mystery than anything. But I thought Josh Sweat and Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham, those guys have done decent. But overall as a group, I don't think they've necessarily been dominant to any certain extent. But it's tough to read edge rushers at practice.
Yeah, and Bryce only played five snaps in Baltimore, so he was barely out there. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, maybe I'm too high on Bryce Huff, but I kind of know he's going to be able to rush the passer. Yeah. Maybe not against Lane Johnson, but he doesn't have to play against Lane Johnson.
And not many people are able to, rush
exactly.
against Micah Parsons.
Exactly. I bring up all the time. Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
You would think Nick Bosa stinks if you put on his Lane Johnson tape.
Yeah. So I wouldn't buy into the Bryce Huff is struggling thing. For now, I would take it more as the Lane Johnson thing. If it's in the regular season and we see something that's different than what we saw in New York as a pass rusher, then I'd be concerned. But for now, it's just the classic case of Lane Johnson's just too good.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's exactly what I bring up constantly on this show. And I went back and I asked a bunch of guys specifically about Hassan, because you forget, you go through one training camp, you get to the next, and it's such a grind and it's always moving. And I was like, I don't remember Hassan really splashing in practice. And most people agreed with me. And he was just fine when the real bullets started to fly, so to speak. But offensively, they kind of piecemealed it. I thought they might do this and say, well, the defense needs some more work, so they might play. And the offense is like, it's going to be good. It's just a matter of how good. And they ended up playing it cautious. I think the weather played into it, the wet field, even though it broke and it was a pretty nice night overall, except for the humidity. Did you want to say, are you one of those that believes you need to get some reps, preseason reps?
I see the reasoning why, especially if you start off slow at the gates. And maybe you could say last year, because of how they practice and the lack of reps in preseason, maybe they were not ready for the year, and that's why they broke down. But I'm not necessarily a believer in that. I'm more of a believer in you have star players on offense, and the best thing that can come out of a training camp is not necessarily an amazing performance by them or a great slate of preseason games. Is coming away healthy with most of your pieces before the season starts. So it really doesn't bother me that they didn't get reps. And I think that Patriots game, or not the Patriots game, but the Patriots joint practice this week serves pretty much as one preseason game for them, which I think at the end of the day, that's all they were going to get. And maybe they would have played a few plays against the Ravens, but this week against New England, in this joint practice will be where they are able to kind of, get the most ready. And I'm fine with that. I think joint practices serves well. I think preseason games are better, for the second and third string guys kind of trying to prove themselves. So I don't think it necessarily will impact the chemistry of this offense necessarily.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now getting back to the offensive perspective of not pushing the football down the field, because I'm not concerned about it, but I am starting to think, and we talk about this stretch, and we're at 11 practices now where Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown an interception. Now, on the surface, that's great, Kaden. But if it's great because it's all checkdowns and it's all over the middle, as you mentioned, is that an overcorrection of what went wrong last year when they were trying to push the football down the field, when they fell in love with the big play versus, all right, let's, because training camps where you should be pressing things and saying, oh, can I make this throw? And generally you have more interception. You can go on X today and you'll see practices around the league. Interception. Everybody gets upset by it, but who cares? You're working on things. Counterintuitively, is that a bad thing that he has no interceptions?
It feels weird to say it's a bad thing because I'll say this. I don't think it's a bad or a good thing. I don't get the whole, is so many days he's thrown an interception. I don't think it really matters that in any regard, whether you're perfect in training camp or you're not perfect in training camp. I think that's maybe one of the most overrated things that we look into. But when it comes to an offense, maybe there is some overcorrection because the big complaint, last year with Nick Sirianni's offensive scheme and was that they were too vertical and they were trying to stretch the field too much and they weren't really using all different areas of the field in the middle of the field and just they weren't attacking pretty much. They were, very basically just running 4 verts and going down the field. So maybe there is some overcorrection to that, but I don't know. I do think maybe they're playing it slightly conservative and they could test it a little more, but I think Jalen's played well so far, though. I think he's looked accurate. He's made some really good throws. I don't know. It will be interesting. I'm not really sure if Kellen Moore's showing his hand yet necessarily. He's very close to the vest. He talks about his philosophies during the press conference, but he doesn't talk a ton about personnel. And right now, I think we're only seeing a tiny bit of what Kellen Moore would do. And
well, there's a lot of expectations, though. And from the standpoint, because you and I were standing together for a while yesterday, and we were going back and forth on how many stinking pre-snap penalties there were. Because there were a boatload yesterday. And I think everybody's excited about the motion and all the new stuff and all the eye candy and the eye wash and this and that. And that's great. And the orbit. And then people are jumping on, they're jumping early. Should be getting better at this point. And they had a real step back when it came to that yesterday.
Yeah, it was definitely a sloppy day. And I would say the offense just from a whole yesterday, it's not like when they weren't getting penalized, I thought things were moving pretty decently. But, they're consistently shooting themselves in the foot yesterday with pre-snap penalty or just, I don't know, if it was some of it was definitely some form of illegal formation, some false starts. And that comes with a new offense in some regard, like you said, John, with Kellen Moore coming in. Last year, they weren't doing a lot of this, pre-snap movement with motion and stuff. Some of the stuff in the communication is probably definitely, especially up front with Cam Jurgens taking over center and Mekhi Becton now at right guard. There seems like there could be some, there's still some areas to work on there. And we talk all along about how great the playmakers are with AJ and Devontae and Saquon and Dallas Goedert. And you have good, strong offensive line play and a good quarterback play. But if you're continually being sloppy, which, at the end of the day, we go back to last season. And, some of it had to do with the play calling. But we forget to look at, some of these players on this offense last year, no matter how much talent they have, underperformed. and and it was sloppy. And if that continues into the season, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. They just got to be more crisp if they're going to reach their potential. And it's not a guarantee that necessarily Kellen Moore comes in and all of a sudden the light changes and they go from the 7th best offense back to being a top 2 offense again. So
we'll see. Kaden, I want to ask you about running back Saquon Barkley and what you've seen of him so far in training camp. How has he stood out to you, if at all? And how do you think he's going to be used in the offense this year?
Yes, Saquon's been interesting because again, it's tough. It's similar to Bryce, where I feel like he stood out a little more, but I don't think I've watched Saquon Barkley in practice been oh wow, he's been earth shattering or anything. But at the same time, it's practice. They're not tackling to the ground. He didn't play in the preseason game, but he looks explosive when he's gotten some carries, and I think he's looked solid. He's one of those players again, though. I don't think we'll really see it until the regular season begins. But when the regular season does begin, I think he's going to have a bigger role in the offense. You didn't give him. Howie Roseman hasn't given a running back a 3-year deal very often. That's not what they do. So obviously, Kellen Moore has some plan for Saquon, and I think he'll get a large portion of the carries. I think he'll be involved more in the passing game. It seems like the running backs at least want that, and Kellen has talked about that.
Well, it's funny. They get Kenny involved. They get Will involved.
Not as much.
They don't really get Saquon involved.
I don't know what it is. It's tough because I want to say whether he stand out or he hasn't stand out, Zander, but he hasn't been it feels like he hasn't been a huge part of the offense in practice necessarily, but I'm not sure why that is or how that will change when the regular season comes. I still think Saquon Barkley is going to be a big part of the offense, and I believe that he has a ton of talent. If he didn't lose a step from everything that he went through in New York with the injuries, and that's still, I guess, a little bit of a question mark. How much juice does he have left? If he still has that, I think he'll be a big-time player for the Eagles. But in training camp, it's been tough to kind of see how his role will be just from a definite perspective, I guess.
Ultimately, Kaden, I think the Eagles are going to go outside the organization and bring in another wide receiver at some point. But if they don't, who's your guy? Who's your guy, wide receiver 3? Who are you going with?
Yeah, well, it's not great. You mentioned the preseason game, and the reason they probably weren't able to get down the field very often, and they weren't having much offensive success just in general, is because the depth of the wide receiver. We talk about all the position groups on this team, and from a frontline perspective, wide receiver is probably the best. You have 2 stars. But from a depth perspective of any position on this team, the wide receiver is the worst. If you knock on wood, hopefully for them, that AJ or Devontae does not get hurt, because if they do, this passing offense is going to be in trouble. So I agree with you, John. They're going to have to go outside probably to fill it. But if some reason Howie Roseman doesn't do that, surprisingly, it's tough. I would go with Brett and Covey, I guess, because
same here. Yeah,
I have 2 things I feel confident of. I feel like Britton can get open, at least underneath. I think he's got enough quick, jitter to get underneath and be a possession wide receiver. And 2, I feel like not only as a punt returner, but from what I've seen in practice, he will secure the ball. He's pretty safe at catching it, which, look, I've liked what I've seen from Johnny Wilson. Some parts of his game, I can't get over the fact that, in a good way, that he's 6'7". You can't teach size and athleticism, and I think he has some tools to work with, and they seem to trust him more than I thought they would from him as a rookie. They like him, but I don't know about the hands. He had drops in college. He really struggled with that at Florida State.
And he was bobbling the ball yesterday.
Yes.
You saw it.
Yes.
I think I read a couple guys and they said, "Oh, Wilson made some nice guys." And Michael Clay and Joe P were back there saying, he bobbled it going to the ground.
Yeah, I guess it's up to the judgment whether you caught it, but whether it was a catch or not, it wasn't clean though. Even if you pulled it in and they did a
Definitely
review,
wasn't clean.
Yeah, so that part would concern me, and the fact that he's a rookie and you want to put him in big situations. I know that, and I do think to a certain extent the third wide receiver is a little overblown. You don't need a guy to go out there and get you 60 catches. I mean, perfectly. If you could go back to 2022, I thought Quez did a nice job in what his role was as a guy who stretched the field and opened up space for AJ and Devontae. Obviously, Quez regressed last year and got hurt and just like it didn't work. But do you want to put a rookie in that situation where you have to count on him and he drops passes in big games? I'm not sure if you want to give him the full workload of a number 3 wide receiver. If there's a package for him, I think that's fine. I do think he has potential. This is nothing against Johnny Wilson because I think he's been more impressive than I thought he would be.
Yeah.
But
it's a 6th-round pick. It's fine. I mean, he's going to make the team. I can't say that about Anais Smith. So
yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so it was Johnny Wilson, it was Joe Nada, and it was John Ross. And I already put Nate Wiggins down as a all-pro cornerback because he shot all 3. He was in the hip of all 3, which is and Nate's a rookie for those who don't know. Obviously, late first round pick, but boy, he really had an easy time with those guys. And yeah, I think Howie's got to go outside the organization. But you're right in the fact that it doesn't even matter. If AJ and Devontae stay healthy, it doesn't matter.
No.
But there's no bigger drop-off between the starters and the backups on this team than wide receiver.
Yeah, and I agree because you look at most other positions. I'm going to exclude quarterback, but I mean, I feel confident about the backups in the secondary, the D linemen, even like I feel good about guys like he's not necessarily backup, but guys like Mitt Williams. I feel good about just the depth overall, but the wide receiver position. And you mentioned it's funny about the Nate Wiggins. I mean, Ravens Twitter thinks he's a Hall of Famer from locking up 3.
I know.
But
he looked like a Hall of Famer. That's the point.
Yeah, it just. If that happens, though, they are in trouble. I agree. They're going to have to get someone out there that is a quality number 3 wide receiver. You at least hope maybe you can find that in a trade in the next few weeks. I'm not sure who they would look at. I mean, you would have to go to a team with a really deep wide receiver core and a guy who's going to be out of man out. I don't know if you go look to a team like Houston maybe or San Francisco, like a guy that's going to be their number 5 or 6 wide receiver or being in danger of getting cut, and you're going to have to hope that you can get him for a late round pick and that he can produce because, I mean, maybe we're discounting Britton Covey to a certain extent because
I'm not. I just think I think Britton would do a good job being, as you said, it's a certain type. He's going to be a possession receiver, a, middle of the field guy, but he can create separation. He can do some things on those bubble screens. He can make the first guy miss. Just a solid player. And you don't need a lot of traffic, but I don't think the Eagles believe in him because he doesn't have versatility. He's obviously very undersized. Devontae plays in the slot. AJ will play in the slot more with Kellen Moore. And they want somebody who's able to move around more so he can do more different things with AJ and Devontae.
And I guess, that's also part of it is if one of those guys go down, even though Britton, I think would be fine within that role. I mean, like you said, he doesn't really have the versatility to go outside because of the size. And they might want to, they're going to need a guy if injuries happen to replace AJ's and Devontae's role. And they don't necessarily have that guy. I would feel really good if Britton Covey and Johnny Wilson were my wide receivers 5 and 6. And I had a 3 and 4 that were a little bit different. And then guys like, frankly, Anais Smith and John Ross and not looking, great. Paris Campbell with the injury. He's the guy that I guess most people thought would be wide receiver 3, but with him missing this time and he wasn't really standing out in practice to begin with. And he wasn't good in New York last year. And he's got a great story. And you want to root for a guy like that, but he's not helping his case right now with the past injuries. And now he's injured again. And I guess he's got familiarity, that relationship with Knicks, and maybe that buys him time to get back, to make the roster still, but I can't rely on him right now either. So,
Yeah.
Kaden, another guy I want to ask about. It's tough to – we talk about the wide receiver 3, and I keep going. The only thing I think about in my head is I got Devontae, I got AJ, I got Saquon Barkley, I got Dallas Goedert. Like, what about Dallas Goedert? What's his role going to be on this offense? Because he's another great player, but you wonder how much is he going to get the ball, or how much are the options in front of him going to get the ball? What's your projection for Dallas Goedert this year? What do you think he's going to be for this team?
Yeah, he looked amazing on the open practice. He got 3 touchdowns in the red zone, and he was dominating. I don't know if he'll be to that certain extent, but there's a chance maybe they'll try to use him in the red zone more this year. I mean, he talked about it a little bit in his presser, I think this past week. He's a really good player. The big thing for him is, one, he has to share targets with AJ and Devontae. So from that perspective, I think naturally his production from a statistical perspective for himself is never going to be up there of past 1,000 yards or anything like that. But I think he could have a big role in this offense. And in all reality, he's the third. Whether you want to think maybe they'll involve Saquon more in the passing game, we'll see about that. But right now, he's the third guy in this passing game. I think he'll be really productive. I think he's going to have a big role, especially if they're going to want to stretch just use advantage or take advantage of more parts of the field. They're going to target the middle of the field more. And if that happens, from what we've seen in practice, Dallas is going to be a bigger part of that. It's just for him. It's just to stay healthy. And I know the last 2 years he's gotten injured with some freaky injuries. Like Washington had his face mask ripped off of his face. Last year against Dallas as well, it was a freaky injury. So it's not like Dallas has got these lingering hamstring injuries or something that's been holding him out.
Don't forget the broken glenoid bone in Chicago. We looked at that and said, what glenoid? Nobody ever heard of glenoid. And he's got the
worst luck.
Yeah, he did that as well. I think part of it is he plays so physically, like when he was with the forearm injury. He's just he's knocking defenders on the ground and maybe he needs to be a little bit more cautious, but that's just not how he plays the game. At Kaden _Steel 19. Make sure you follow Kaden on X, Twitter. Read him at NJ.com with our buddies Chris Franklin and Bob Brookover as well. Does a tremendous job there. He'll be covering the Eagles on a day-to-day basis this year. So get used to Kaden. He's doing a good job, and I'll leave it. The Cadens of the world. Now, Kaden Stern spells it differently. Do you stick together? The Cadens of the world. Are you excited by Kaden Stern?
I guess to a certain extent, I never thought I would cover another Kaden. It's not like I haven't throughout my life run through or gotten to know a lot of people that are a Kaden. It's happened once in a while, but it's not like a common occurrence. So to have that in the locker room this year, we'll see if he makes the roster. He's got to get healthy first. But I mean,
he was limping, by the way.
He was. He had the sleeve on the leg yesterday. But yeah, I'm excited to cover him. I mean, I'm a Kaden myself. Toward both my ACLs in high school, so I have a Kaden with some injury.
There we go. Lots in common.
With some injury history, so we might be able to bond a little bit. But yeah, I think it's cool. And at the end of the day, I think he's a player that at the beginning of his career was a pretty solid third safety for Denver. They really liked him. Vic liked him.
Yeah.
He played well, obviously. Playing, I forget the exact number, 5 or 6 games within the last 2 years is not ideal, but if he's in the locker room, and introduce myself and same first name, so this should be good.
Good stuff, Kaden. Thanks for joining the show, man. We appreciate you being here. Great insights. We're happy to have you on the Eagles beat this year. We look forward to talking to you all year long. So thanks for joining us today, man. We'll catch up with you soon. All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right. There's Kaden Steel joining us on Birds 365. Great stuff from Kaden Steel. Who's been down at practice and down at the training camp. And he's one of their main guys now, right, at NJ.com covering this football team. Is that correct?
Yeah. Him and Brookie are going to do the Eagles, and Chris is moving to more of a general thing where he's going to cover some Giants, some Eagles, some whatever else they cover at NJ.com. So, Caden's the new guy, but he's doing a good job.
Doing a great job. I want to thank everybody for being here. Almost 160 likes in the show today. Thank you all for the likes. Let's try and get to close to 200 likes. We got over 400 watching on YouTube. Appreciate all you guys being here. We're going to take one more commercial break. And then on the way out the door, I got a question for Johnny Mack as we go into maybe what's the most important day of the summer, right? When you think about a joint practice and you're not playing versus your own team and it's not a preseason game. Is it fair to say it's one of the most important days of the offseason?
Yeah, it is. I mean, but I don't want to
practice part of it.
I don't want to overstate it to that degree. But I mean, it is going to be a test for the starters against another team, which is important. I prefer if it were 2 days where you can kind of, get a bigger feel. So one day is kind of hurt. And then let's be honest, New England's not New England. So I think there's going to be some excitement. It's not a very good team right now, certainly offensively. So I think the defense is going to look a little bit better. Probably a bigger test for the offensive guys for two reasons. One, they're not going to play in the preseason, and because they're so good offensively, and they do have a pretty good defense, or at least projected to have a pretty good defense.
We'll see how it goes. Let's take our last commercial break. If you're in that chat, drop that like button. Any questions you got in there, drop them. We'll try and hit them on the way out the door today. Just 8 minutes left to go. Appreciate everybody being here. Stay tuned. Birds 365 will be right back.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Is the best vacation one that you find or one you get lost in? One that takes you to new heights or reminds you to go with the flow? To get your feet wet and your wheels spinning? One that lets you find your own rhythm or get carried away? Find the best of yourself. Get lost in the woods. Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but...
Shit, Johnny.
Oh, we popped up.
Yeah, I stopped the ad by accident. I clicked my space bar.
That happens. We're back.
Sorry about that. We're back, everybody, on Birds 365. My bad. A couple minutes left to play here on the show. So thanks, everybody, for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're in here. Johnny Mack.
I was just looking at Shaq Davis got signed by the Saints, evidently. I missed that. Former Eagles great Shaq Davis.
Picked up by the Saints.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Trying to double check on that, but
I couldn't believe, Johnny Mac, that they let go Shaq Quarterman already, the Miami legend.
Yeah, needed room. Last one in, first one out. Yeah, he got signed by the Chargers too, so he's right back at it. Good for Shaq. Both Shaqs, Shaq Quarterman, and now Shaq Davis gets another chance with the Saints. So a lot of churn going on around the NFL on the back end of these 90-man rosters.
Yeah, good stuff there. Johnny Mac, going into the week this week, what are the expectations for a joint practice like this? How do how does it differ for a team? Do you try and keep stuff close to the vest? Do you push the needle on trying to get better? What's the approach for a team going into a training?
Well, you definitely try.
Practice?
I mean, that's what practice is about, trying to get better. It's not about winning practice, not about losing practice. There was a joke for a while that Nick Sirianni, he was undefeated in joint practices and they were more impressive than everybody till they got waxed in Miami in the heat. It was really oppressive. And the Dolphins have a great facility and they're stretching and in the air conditioned inside portion, the Eagles are out in the heat and boy, they just jumped all over them. And then they also destroyed them in the preseason game a couple days later, I believe. It didn't matter. I mean, you're looking to get better. You're looking to try things, and what joint practices are better than preseason games because the coaches know what they want to work on, and they can script these periods. So you get together. In this case, it'll be with Gerard Mayo and say, "Look, we need to work on." Certain things, might be one-on-ones, coverage, linebackers, tight end, things like that. The Eagles struggling in coverage, you might want to work on that. You set up a period, things like that. You want to maybe work on third down, situational football, red zone, hurry up, backed up. And you can get together and say, I need this and they need this. And you just collectively try to get better. And it's always, you get used to Brandon Graham and Lane Johnson have talked about this for years because they played together for so long. They know each other. They know everything about each other. And that's why Brandon might have a little bit more success against Lane than most people and vice versa. It's good to get away from the guys you practice against every day and see a bunch of new NFL players that you don't know. And remember, you're not game planning for these things. The coaches aren't telling him what to expect from certain Patriots players. It's just about going out and trying to improve and trying to get better against other NFL players. So they're important, but if you get the reports coming out tomorrow that the Eagles look terrible or the Eagles look great, either I wouldn't get too high, I wouldn't get too low.
Just another practice. My projection will be that the Eagles will get the win tomorrow in their practice. I'm most excited for guys like Quinyon Mitchell because I feel like he has a chance to go up against their receivers and they're obviously going to try and pick on him. He's a rookie out there. I think that's where you learn. I'd love to hear how that goes and matchups like that that are across and even their cornerbacks. I don't know who the cornerbacks are in New England right now, but they're going to have a tough test tomorrow with AJ and Devontae. I'm curious to hear.
Well, one of them's Tristan Gonzalez. I don't know how healthy he is. I have to check. I haven't looked at what's going on too much with
Rager's there. Johnny Mac.
Rager's there, yeah. But Gonzalez was looking tremendous as a rookie corner last year. Then he got hurt after I don't know 4 or 5 games, somewhere in that range. But he was a natural, and I assume he's back. But so they're better. They're better on defense than they are on offense.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, we'll see how it goes tomorrow. Johnny Mac, are you heading up there tomorrow? What is our Birds 365 schedule tomorrow? Is it tough?
I don't know. I'm a game time decision. I'm seriously thinking about not going. If there were 2 practices I would go, I'm leaning towards not going. So we'll be here at 8 a.m. Most likely.
We might have to do a little 24/7 at night then after the camp day.
Yeah, I was talking to my doctor as well. He said, yeah, take advantage of it. Because I kind of had a setback with the cap as well. So, but while I say that, I also hate missing stuff. So I might just get in the car at 3 o'clock and say I'm going. But so it's still to be determined. But I'm leaning towards being here at 8 a.m.
There's got to be a car, right? There's got to be like a car of people going, a car of reporters that's heading down, or no? Like similar to how you had for Baltimore, or is that not?
Yeah, a bunch of people are going up. Jeff's not going. Ed's not going. Martin's not going. Tim's not going.
Oh, so a lot of people are flaking on the practice.
Yeah, a lot of people. Well, because there's not a lot of time, so. And then this isn't Baltimore. Like if this were Baltimore, everybody would be going. If this were New York, everybody would be going. But
a little further out there. How far is the drive? 5-6 hours?
5-6 hours, yeah, typically. Now, no traffic, you get 4.5, but there's never no traffic trying to get through New York and Connecticut.
Yeah, that's not happening. That doesn't happen at any hour of the day. So traffic is built in.
Yeah. So I'm leaning towards not going because it's just not. If there were 2, there would be no decision. But there's not. There's only 1. And then my calf is playing into it as well. Bunch of things. Anyway, I'm doing this bit. We should be doing this off the air. But anyway.
That's right. We just got it done on the air so the people know. We'll be back hopefully tomorrow at 8 a.m. And if John's not with me, if John decides to go or whatever, I'll be back for a football 24/7 in the morning. I'll talk to you guys a little bit. So, but anyway, we should be back tomorrow at some point. Look for us in the morning. And if not at the morning, we will get something planned for some point in the day. So I will catch you guys all later on. Thank you all for being here. 171 likes right now. So thanks, everybody, for the likes. And try and get to 200 on the way out the door. So smash that like button on your way out the door. Johnny Mac, great show today, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, brother?
All right. Thanks, Zander.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.